Good morning, guys. We're going to continue our study of Main Idea with Military Animals by Lori Kalkoven. I guess that's the way you say it. And we're going to do the Animal Soldiers by Air section and the supporting topics. I can't talk this morning. So we have this section, and the main idea of this section is animal soldiers by air. That's what this chapter is mostly about, or section. And our supporting details are bats, turkeys, pigeons are the supporting details for animal soldiers by air. Okay, let's look at bats. I bet you didn't know bats were used by the military. So let's read and see what happened. Here we have a picture. Show you that. Okay. When the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor in 1941 during the Second World War, many Americans wanted to find a way to help the United States win. One man, Dr. Little S. Adams, came up with the idea of attaching small incendiary bombs to bats and dropping them over Japan from airplanes. Bats, which can eat up to 1,000 mosquitoes a day, can carry 3 times their weight. Researchers believe that the bats would fly into hiding in their houses and other buildings with their tiny bombs. Then they would gnaw through the strings and attach the vise to their bodies and fly away before the fire started. First the Army, then the Navy, and finally the Marines tried to get the program known as Project X-Ray to work. But it turns out that bats have minds of their own. Many simply flew away, while others, unused to the weight of the bomb, fell to the ground. The project was canceled in 1944. Bats were supposed to fly into enemy territory carrying tiny bombs, but they wouldn't follow orders. Was one of our little captions underneath the picture. Made in Japan. During World War II, many Americans thought incorrectly that Japanese homes and factories were made out of paper and wood. If that had been the case, fire-starting bats would have caused a lot of damage. And for our main idea for this section was bats were not successful in Project X-Ray. That's what it's mostly about, them not being successful. Okay, but they tried. Looks like when it comes to war, you try everything, don't you? Okay, so this is about turkeys. During the Spanish Civil War, now this is the Spanish War, not in the U.S., 1936 to 1939, Republicans who supported the Democratic government of Spain battled the Nationalists, a fascist group led by General Francisco Franco. Anarchists got involved too and took control of parts of southern Spain. Many nationalists were driven into the hills, including one group that retreated to a remote monastery, a place where monks lived and worked. The nationalist soldiers had to be resupplied using airdrops, and someone decided it would be a good idea to use turkeys for the job. Turkeys laden with supplies were dropped out of planes and over the monastery. Turkeys aren't strong flyers, but they flap their wings as they fell, which helps slow their descent. Still, the impact of the fall killed them. When it was all over, the soldiers not only had new supplies, they also had turkey for dinner. The Nationalists did eventually win the war, and General Franco ruled Spain for the next 36 years. Oh, here's turkeys. Now, this next one is, I think, real fascinating. Pigeons. Animal soldiers by air, and the supporting detail is the pigeon. Before the telegraph, telephone, and internet, carrier pigeons were often the fastest way to send messages. Pigeons were used to send news of military victories as far back as ancient Greece. When World War I broke out, armies on both sides used more than 500,000 pigeons to carry small capsules with messages, maps, photographs, and even tiny cameras to the front lines and back to the headquarters. These small birds had a 90% success rate. There were more than one pigeon hero. There was more than one pigeon hero in the Great War. The most famous was a bird named Cher Ami, French for dear friend. The U.S. 77th Infantry Division was stranded behind enemy lines and came under fire not just from the enemy, but also from their own allies. So even their own guys were shooting at us. An American officer attached a note to Cher Ami's leg telling his troops to stop firing. German troops shot at the bird, but he didn't give up. Cher Ami was blinded and shot in the breast and leg, but he still flew 25 miles to deliver the message and saved 194 American soldiers. Cher Ami was given France's highest military honor, the Croix de Guerre, meaning Cross of War or Military Cross. And it says pigeons could carry messages and even take pictures with tiny cameras like the one attached to the bird. Okay? Pretty cool, huh? And this is German and Allied soldiers carried pigeons into combat to send reports back to commanding officer. These brave birds were called upon again in World War II. Radio communications improved between the world wars, but pigeons still played an important role. Spies and soldiers on both sides used pigeons to carry top secret information. They were especially useful in areas where soldiers were too close to the enemy to use radios. The Army even invented a special cage and parachute for dropping pigeons from airplanes to isolated troops. The device was used to drop thousands of pigeons over France during the D-Day invasion of Normandy. In the northern part of the country, French civilians were asked to send back detailed information about German troop movements. The D-Day attack on German troops in Europe was so secret that the Allies were allowed to communicate only through pigeons. One bird named Gustav flew more than 150 miles from Normandy back to England to deliver news of the first landing. And the D-Day is a famous battle in World War II when we fought against Hitler. There's a special. So pigeons were very important in that war, carrying secret information. Okay, so that is all. Oh, no, I got some more to read. Sorry about that, guys. The most famous pigeon of World War II was named G.I. Joe. On October 18, 1943, an American infantry division called for heavy bombing of a German-occupied town in Italy. When the Germans retreated unexpectedly, a British brigade unknowingly moved into town shortly before the bombing was sent to begin. Radio attempts to cancel the attack failed, with time running out, G.I. Joe was sent with a message to cancel the bombing. G.I. Joe made the 20-mile trip in just 20 minutes and arrived right as bombers were about to take off. G.I. Joe was awarded the Dickin Medal for Gallantry, the highest award given to an animal in Great Britain. He was the only American pigeon to be honored with the medal. Today, the pigeon service has been disbanded, but without the effort of these brave birds, the world might be a very different place. So, training. World War I pigeons could fly about 200 miles in one flight. So that's like, I guess, from here to Greensboro and back. By the time World War II began, crossbreeding led to faster, stronger birds with even better homing instincts. Their average flying speed was 35 to 40 miles per an hour, but some, like G.I. Joe, could fly as fast as 60 miles per an hour. I mean, that's as fast as a car. Carrier pigeons are bred to find their way back to their lofts or cages. The birds were taken out on longer and longer training runs until they could find their way home over long distances. 8 weeks after hatching, they were ready for duty. So pretty impressive. And that ends our section on animal soldiers by land. And our supporting details were the bats, let me look back, turkey, the turkeys, bats, turkeys, and pigeons. Thank you for listening.